Hey guys, welcome back. It is week number 2 in the month of gentleness, also known as October. I am in beautiful San Antonio, Texas. Can you tell? I wanted to talk to you guys out on the street, but I'm not quite there yet that I can just go out on the sidewalk and start filming a video in public. So you get to see yet another hotel room that I am in. So we're talking about gentleness as a character trait this month, and gentleness is one of those probably the character trait that has a reputation, the biggest reputation of being non-aggressive or very, mild and very tender and very kind. And therefore, we have a tendency to think of gentleness as someone who is lacking conviction or lacking passion. And it's actually the opposite, as we've been talking about all year. Character trait only has the value in the opposite situation. But there's this way that we think about gentleness that is just very passive. And so think about a gentle breeze as opposed to a hurricane wind. One is very soothing, very comforting, very peaceful, very calming, and the other one is quite destructive. And there's this either or mentality that we have when it comes to gentleness. So remember back when in the month of peace, in the month of May, when I showed you the diagram and I had the paper, and on one side I had peace and on the other side I had war. And I said that peace isn't the absence of war, but it's rather peace as a character trait is in the middle part, in between those two opposites. Peace is the ability to bring people together and show them how to cooperate in the middle of the storm. So gentleness is much the same way, but we just don't think of it that way. Gentleness is not a lack of conviction. It's not apathy. It's not lethargy. Gentleness is actually a strength that comes from within. Gentleness is totally an inside job. And if there's a character trait, maybe besides love, that shows us what is going on our inside, it is this character trait of gentleness, because it's the way that we handle people. It's the way that we are in relationship with other people. It's the way that we view other people. And whatever we have inside when we are looking or relating to other people is what is going to come out. So I challenge you to do a fun exercise. I've done this a couple of times with myself, and it's very enlightening. For the next week or so, pay attention to the words that you're using when you talk about other people, or when you are relaying a situation that you were in and you are telling a story of what happened. Listen to the words that you're using to describe the other person or to describe the event. Are they apathetic? Are they negative? Are they critical? Condescending? Are they shaming? What is it? What view or what angle are you using to talk about that other person? And that will give you a really great insight of what is going on inside of you. Because if we are unsettled inside, if we are have any type of anger or any type of unresolved issues, it's going to come out when we are in relationship to other people. Our buttons are going to get pushed. We're going to take things personal. And we're not going to be for the other person as much as we could be. We're not going to be trustworthy with the other person as much as we could be. And so it's this inside job when it comes to gentleness. And so I'm reminded of a story when Jesus was in the marketplace with the woman who got caught in adultery. So this woman was literally in bed with another man who was not her husband. He was married to somebody else, and the men of the town went in and caught them and dragged her out, not him, dragged her out into the market square. And they had rocks. They had these giant rocks in their hand, and they were just angry, and they were just going to throw them at her and stone her, because the law at that time said that if a woman, was caught in adultery, not the man, but if the woman was caught in adultery, that they could legally stone her and kill her. So they brought Jesus out, and they wanted to know from him. They were trying to trap him. They're trying to see what he was all about. And they said, rocks in hand, ready to, throw them at this woman. They said, okay, Jesus, what do you think? And of course they thought that he was going to say, yeah, the law says stone her, go ahead. But he did something different. Jesus saw the angry crowd. He saw this poor woman in the middle being shamed, and he paused. He just took a pause, and he sat down in the dirt, and he wrote something in the dirt. We don't know what it was. The Bible doesn't say. But he took the time to bend down and to run his fingers through the dirt. After a moment, he then calmly said to this angry crowd who just wanted to just lash out at this woman, he said, "He who has not sinned, let him throw the first stone." Now, ironically, the only person in that crowd who had not sinned was Jesus. So he had every right to throw the first stone at her, but he didn't do it. He said, "He who has not sinned, let him throw the first stone." He calmly convicted this crowd that they were no better than she was, and probably several of them had probably been with this woman before. But we all have, all kinds of sins. None of us are any better than the rest. We're all equal in that department. And so they were convicted of this. And so one by one, they threw their rocks down on the ground. They let them drop and they walked away. Again, Jesus could have shamed this woman. He could have said, "What are you doing? What's going on? How shame on you." Like, he could have said all kinds of things. He could have been disgusted with her. He could have just given her a lecture. He could have done all kinds of things, but he didn't. He was gentle with her. He simply said, "Where are your accusers?" And she looked around and they were gone. And he said, "Go and sin no more. Follow me." He invited her into relationship. And I wonder how many of us, when we see people out on the street, or when there's people at work that we don't agree with, or people having a hard day, or people that we think that are just complete idiots, like, how many of us would invite them into relationship, invite them into something that is a trustworthy relationship, that is, dignified and gentle. Now, some people we shouldn't be in relationship with. Gentleness does not mean that we don't set boundaries against people. It doesn't mean that it's just a free-for-all and it's just a kumbaya moment. It doesn't mean that at all. We have wisdom and we have love and respect when we're with people, and there are times when we also need to keep boundaries with people. But gentleness is that character trait that it comes from our heart and it comes from our soul. It's the way that we move through our day. It's the way that we are either impatient, we run out the door at the last minute, and then we're impatient with everybody because they're in our way and because we're late. Or do we leave margin in our day? Do we leave extra time in our day to buy somebody a cup of coffee, to allow for the fact that there's going to be a line on the freeway or a line at the grocery store? And that way we can smile at people, and if things are not going right, it's okay because we left margin and we prepared for that. That's gentleness. It's not a lack of conviction. It's not apathy. It's strength under control. It is a love inside of our heart that we have accepted love and that we are comfortable in our own skin, and then we are able to show that love and respect to each other. We certainly need that right now in this time of political ugliness and yet again another mass shooting, and this time in Saugus, in my own hometown. And so my heart goes out to all the families that were affected by that, and all the friends who have kids in that school and that are okay, and all the families that are not. But that is gentleness. That is it's the way that we approach people. It's the way that we talk to people. It's the way that we talk about people. So stick around next week. We will talk about more of gentleness in week 3. Thanks, guys. Take care.